back it up, because we are in the middle of various misgivings. So we're just jumping right back into it, because that was a very long intermission. Oh, I should probably update the information. Why am I updating it via there when I have the thing right here? Bonk. There we go. It should be back. It's starting to fill out though, for which you're glad. Yeah, no, that's very good. Because I know with them, I feel like the fatter tails are definitely a good sign of health and all that. I only carried 4 passengers that night, I swear it. But, well, I, for one, was told that I had to pay 5 pence for the bus. He fiddled us on the fare, he did. And then I saw that blood-curdling sight as well. It's all too much. Oh, I need pictures of all of these things. And also you, for progress. Because I don't... Not to be creepy. I mean, because baby. If you're okay with that. How do you ask somebody for baby pictures without being weird? Hey, so I heard you're having one of those children things. You wanna show me? Okay, don't do it like that, please. Since you were 12. Oh, I've always wanted one too. The only thing I've worried about is that I know their hairiness can be like a little oh god, it can be irritating. There we go. On like certain people's skins, or maybe it's just if you're like have them crawl on like the soft bits or something. But I mean, most of the time, I don't even know. Well, if those kind of hairs are on the tips of their feet or not. I tell you, I saw McGilded stabbing that man. Everything I said before stands. Oh yes, he stabbed him. Yes, he did. I think so. Yes. Well, you sound very unsure. Council, make sense of this for me, please. The phantom 5th passenger conjured into existence by my learned Eastern friend never existed. The confusion has arisen from the coachman's sly little cozenage. I don't know. He's just constantly freezing. That's the first question I asked, because I was like, what the heck is up with this guy? You piss them off and they stuff it up and they're ridiculous. Oh, okay, yeah. Beppo, explain yourself. I'm terribly sorry, Guildmaster. The guild's fare is 4 pence across the board. You know that. Am I to understand that you've been overcharging our passengers by a penny a fare? It's so cold, and the last run of the day is always half empty. I only need to gather the money to resurrect my poor, sick wife. You have been dishonest, coachman. I'm sorry. You're a disgrace, Beppo, a disgrace! And your selfish actions have brought dishonor upon the entire guild. If I may, sir, I had to pay 10 pence on the bus just last week. What? 4 passengers at 5 pence is, yes, 20 pence. I've done the arithmetic 10 times already, but I just can't make the result come out differently. No, that figures, because we're talking about numbers. Bonk. Well, it would appear that one of the aforementioned misgivings has already been explained. So, counsel for the defense, your cross-examination, if you please. We've already had the pleasure of protracted summary examination today. I see you intend to continue the parlor games. Yeah, I do. Oh, good job on the catches, everybody who tried. Absolutely. Yeah, we're gonna keep going. Earlier, you testified that you saw the moment when the defendant allegedly stabbed the victim, didn't you? Oh, yes, that's right. You said the victim was on the floor and described an assailant as holding the knife in an ice pick grip. I suppose. No, it's not you suppose. I might have, yes, put the cart before the horse, maybe? Oh, come on. What's this? Well, I'm quite certain about most of it. I was driving the horses when I heard a scream from the seats on the roof deck. Oh, I expect that was me, sir. Then when I turned around, yes, I saw it through the skylight. That's impossible. The gentleman was on the floor, and the knife was sticking up out of his midriff. That's right, yes, and the fellow holding the handle was the famous man, yes. So in short, you didn't see the moment when the victim was actually stabbed at all. I really thought I did, but when I could go over it again in my head, no, I suppose I didn't actually see the precise moment of the stabbing, did I? Oh, hello? Sir? Sir, are you okay? Excuse me? Do you have something to say about that, Mr. Fairplay? Oh, jeez. That isn't a candy cane. Now you listen to me. I know what you're thinking. He didn't really see the exact moment the fellow was stabbed. What are the chances of that? Eh? Are you asking me or telling me? He's getting flustered. I might be able to extract some new information from him if I answered him cleverly. Could he have just happened to see the exact moment the crime was committed? No chance. Some days are like that. What is that? What? Well, it is a little hard to believe, certainly. Unless you spend your time peeping through a skylight on top of an omnibus, that is. I bet he peeps at ladies to see if he can see their boobies. Peeping? I'm a respectable city banker, I'll have you know. And I know what I saw. I remember it as clear as a Ballarat that day. That boy is having a really hard time keeping his hat on. It was a grim scene, I don't mind telling you. Thank you, Mr. Fairplay. Yeah, cleavage. I can't believe the women these days with their cleavage. Witchcraft! You didn't know that you were in this game? Wow, gross. Don't be doing that. Oh, excuse me if I was getting a little hot under the collar there, my lord. I don't look at the lady boobies. That's a fallacy. Nobody said anything about it, but I don't do it! We're so witchy. I know. Always mesmerizing us with those jigglers. The jello jigglers. I would ask you to supplement your testimony with a clear statement about what exactly you saw. Yeah, she's probably showing ankle. Frickin' whore! Sorry. Phallic? Well, no. I would hope your boobs aren't phallic. I mean, I guess they could be if they were like the torpedo boobs from the... I don't know if that's... You know what? Let's just stop talking about it. What? Boob... Oh, I'll tell you how grim it was. There was this lady this one time, and I could see her whole neck. Horrible. You think I'd forget the sight of those blood-soaked hands after the butcher stabbed him, man? Are you fucking crazy, sir? This man had the gloves!
Objection!
You can't see his hands because he was wearing gloves. What? Wait, what? Blood-soaked hands? Oh, hi, Sarah George. Sorry you came in. We're talking about, like... You know what? Don't worry. Hello. Nothing bad ever happens on this stream. We're just talking about murder and stuff. Oh, that water was a little colder than I thought it would be. Thank you. Well, I admit that soaked might be laying it on a little thick. But anyway, there was definitely blood all over them. Both of them were covered in it. Well, I'm very sorry to disagree, Mr. Fairplay, but that's more than a little peculiar. I'm glad that you're doing well. What? Whoa, 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 whoa! Here are the gloves. Here are the gloves worn by the defendant, Mr. McGilded, on the night in question. Wait a second. What? Wait, what? What if... Bruce Fairplay, witnesses... Okay, guys, how about Bruce Fairplay is the real killer because his mustache looks like a W, which is exactly what's on this knife. If you turn it this way, that mutton-chopped bastard trying to lay the blame. Yeah, he's Wario. Fucking put him in the irons. Clamp him in the chains. Here are the gloves worn by the defendant, Mr. McGilded, on the night in question. Oh, yes, right. And there certainly does appear to be a sizable dark-colored stain there. But I'm sure you can clearly see it's only on the right-hand glove. Duh. What a dunce. Darg! I'm gonna eat my cane, I guess. That's weird. Cool. In short, Mr. Fairplay, you suck. Your testimony is inconsistent. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Like, why would you start it off with a swirl and then that? I feel like that would be the ending, like, flourish. Oh! Somebody invited me to watch their live TikTok, and I'm like, dang. I mean, they're hot, so who am I to say no? That's actually not how that works. Yeah! But, no! That can't be right. Oh, it's you gotta have, I hate the fact that it needs to have that space. It's gotta be, quote, quote, add. Bam! I did it! I hate my own quote system, actually. Got it. Thank you for that, though. So you're the liar here, then. Arr! That's right! You were quite clear about it. You said, "Yarr!" It was both hands. Arr! Mr. Fairplay, if your last statement was a lie, it calls your entire testimony into question. Take off your gloves, Mr. Fairplay. I want to see your fucking dirty fingers. You know, that went a lot different than I thought it would. You say you saw the moment the victim was stabbed, but is that really the truth? Alright, well,
Objection!
Oh wait, his hands are totally out in the open, aren't they? What if he's wearing skin gloves on top of his regular skin? Yeah. It was a simple mistake. You can't justify accusing this man of lying. Sorry. Yes, it wasn't both hands, it was only one, but the fact remains. Objection. The vampire, yeah, I know, hurry up, make him smash another glass. The victim's blood was on the accused.
Objection.
No, Mr. Fairplay categorically stated he saw blood all over both hands. It is a pretty good outfit. Which means there's a strong possibility that this witness was deliberately trying to mislead the court. Garg! Why? I'm a city banker, for pity's sake. My ward should be the gold standard. Oh, get it, because he's a banker, so he works with gold. Fuck you! I'm a gentleman, not some gutter snipe. Upstanding member of society. Don't prevaricate. What the fuck? He's claiming to have no reason to lie. Is that really the case? Mr. Naruhodo, you had some evidence to explain why Mr. Fairplay might be lying. Could turn the tide in this trial completely. Compelling reason to lie is... Wait, do I have evidence? Wait, I bet I do! My lord. Wait, let me check the court record to make sure I'm not blowing out my ass. Ba-da-da-doo. This portfolio must contain all sorts of secrets of London's gentry. Dear, you really think we ought to look inside? Well, it's not as if we know any of London's gentry personally, is it? You know what I was doing, Leighton? Oh, yeah, the hair? His hair? I don't know, he had a lot of hair, too. Apart from our great detective friend, perhaps. What if he's in debt? I assure you we will not find Mr. Sholmes' name inside. Well, let's see what we find. Fancy. There's words. Gosh, it's crammed full of gentlemen's names, isn't it? Well, I suppose they're probably not all gentlemen at all, are they? Miracle Mask. No, I need to. God, I still need to. It's because the last time I did stuff to my PC, Citra puts all of its files in my C drive, which is the drive, when you swap PCs or clean your hard drive of the C drive. That's one of the things that gets deleted. So I'd have to start over. I got to figure out where I'm at and get back to it. I got kind of bummed out after it happened, so. After all, not everyone in this country is well off. Ah, goodness! What is it? Look at this. Do you see the names here? Whoopsie. Bruce Fairplay. Should that mean something to me? That sounds strangely familiar. It's the W Man. This witness is testifying at this very moment. Oh, yes, of course, the banker. Why is his name in here? He borrowed 20 guineas, did he? And look, the repayment date is fast approaching. It's possible that this is just a coincidence, of course, but this could be very useful information. Haha, I knew it, he owes a debt! Oh! Okay, I've got my evidence. Yes, counsel? The defense is ready to present evidence after taking a quick look at all personal information of all these people. By Jove, are you sure? Yes, evidence that will clearly demonstrate why Mr. Fairplay had reason to lie in his testimony. Darg! Very well. I hereby call in defense to present its evidence. Why am I looking at it? Oh, I didn't want to fight. Oopsie, I pressed the wrong button. It's not the A button, it's the present button. Shit. The X!
Take that!
Take it! This is a list of the debtors who owe money to Mr. McGilded. Oh god, why can't I type? Yes, a list of innocent victims crippled by the accused's extortion. The point is, among the names of these debtors is your name, Mr. Bruce Fairplay. What? Mr. Fairplay, are you currently indebted financially to the accused? God, no! Well, it's barely worthy of being called a debt. According to this ledger, you owe 20 guineas. Not an inconsiderable sum of money, wouldn't you say? Darg! Well, what of it? Let's suppose Mr. McGilded were to be found guilty of murder. What would become of your debt in that case? These documents state that the loan agreement is forged between two individual parties. Therefore, were the creditor, the defendant here, to be sentenced to capital punishment, all outstanding debts, outstanding debts, outstanding, that's not a word, probably, were owed to him would be annulled. They would cease to exist. Cease to exist? Yes, much like my long-term memory. Mr. Fairplay, is it not the case that you claimed in your testimony to have seen something you never in fact saw? In a devious attempt to annul your debt of 20 guineas to the defendant? Order, Mr. Bruce Fairplay. Yes, my lord. Let me ask you again, and be aware that your answer may have most serious implications upon your future, sir. Did you or did you not see the precise moment in time at which the defendant is alleged to have thrust a knife into the victim? Apparently, the way he's going at that without his teeth taking any kind of damage. Your silence speaks volumes. You did not tell the truth in your testimony. All right, let's not make a melodrama out of this. Perhaps I did overstate the truth. A pinch. A pinch? But it makes no difference. I definitely remember seeing blood on Mr. McGilded's hands. Both of them!
Objection!
And yet, only one of the defendant's gloves, which we have here as evidence, is stained. Ah, so you keep saying. I wonder if I might be allowed to speak, sir. Yeah, maybe he has a thing for canes. Yeah, he is fairly. I'm waiting for the point where he's not so much, but at least he's not constantly talking about his grandson or something. Gotcha. Oh God. Go ahead, Mr. First. Well, the first thing is, I think I remember seeing it myself, as it happens. Seeing what? The blood, sir, on the assailant's hands. I think, yes. I'm almost sure it was on both of his hands, not just one. What? What? Oh, God! So dramatic. It would appear that we're going to need further testimony from all you witnesses, because you suck. This time, I would like to know precisely what you did and what you did not see. Do I make myself perfectly clear? Yes! Mr. Naruhodo, this is good news. The course of the trial seems to have shifted slightly at last. Yes. I might finally have a chance to turn things around here. Oh yeah, it is getting pretty late for you. Thank you very much for being here, princess. Or it should. Well, it's fine. It's okay. You know, I always enjoy having you here. Because every time a new judge shows up, I'm like, they're going to be okay. And they're just a carbon copy of the other judge. Just sometimes they're slightly different. Cookie and cream. Oh, that does sound really good. I love cookie and cream ice cream. Like a whole lot. Amazing, it's very good. Yeah, Blackwell as a judge. I don't know if we're gonna find like a long lost, not descendant, ancestor. That's the opposite. If only. Maybe I'll Photoshop him in, and I'll be like, I'm here, and the people will be like, but he's not in the game, and I'll be like, he is now. What the witnesses really saw. There was blood on both hands of the assailant. I sincerely and distinctly remember that. However, I suppose you might say that I didn't see the exact moment the stabbing transpired, if that matters. I remember seeing the knife, and I remember seeing both of the attackers' hands with blood on them. I didn't actually see anything myself, no, not until I heard that scream. Anyway, the fact remains, there can't have been anyone else inside that carriage we would have all seen. But you could only see one side of the carriage. Well, lo and behold, in truth of fact, no, not one of you was witness to the crucial moment of the crime was perpetrated. I apologize, my lord, but honestly, there was no one else inside the carriage and the man's hands were covered in blood. That much incriminating evidence is tantamount to saying we saw the man do it. That's really not what the testimony is about. Let us examine the interior of the omnibus once more. The victim's fresh blood is clearly visible on the seat, corroborating the witnesses' accounts. In other words, there is no substantial nor significant change in the facts of the case. I hated Nayuta. I hated him, actually, because he was just such an asshole every single time. Like, that's why I like Blackwell kind of talked down to you, but he kind of had a big chip on his shoulder. Like, I literally hated Nayuta. Like, every other prosecutor had some kind of redeeming feature or something, but Nayuta just had a chip on his shoulder and took every aggression out on you. Like, even this guy, I have no issue with him. I like him. He's just doing his job. He's not like actively like talking trash to you or anything. Nayuta was just, I hated. Every time I saw him on the other side, I was like, ugh, which is why when we had that case where it wasn't him and Blackwell was there, I was like, this is the best part of the game. It made him so mad. Yeah, exactly. It was awful. And then the Holy Mother, no. I'm already got a shaky grounds with any kind of religion, but when you're that crazy, I'm like, not a fan. Very well, your cross-examination, please, counsel. However, I suppose it does matter. Hold it! And everything you saw of the incident was through the skylight on the roof of the omnibus. That's right, it was fiercely cold that night. But the glass wasn't frosted over. Yeah, that was probably one of the best parts. Blackwell yelling at a guy who deserves to be yelled at, very good. 10 out of 10. Fuck that guy. Oh yes, I remember I was shivering. It was so bitter. Which rather begs the question of why the pair of you were sitting on the roof deck in the first place. Well, I don't know about this young fellow, but I couldn't enter the cabin. Oh, why not? Because the debtor was in there. It was locked from the inside. I tried knocking, but no one opened the door. What? It was locked? Why would it be locked? That's right! And it's a public bus service, for pity's sake. That's not what I call a fair play. Haha, that's your name. Yes, I had exactly the same experience. I tried knocking, but the gent inside just gestured at me to clear off. So I had no choice but to climb up to the roof deck and look down longingly into the warm cabin below. Well, I can assure you I wasn't just looking down, I was glaring, long and hard. And that's precisely why I can tell you with absolute confidence that if there was anyone else at all in that cabin, I would have noticed. Unequivocal, I would say. I'm not sure about these two witnesses. Would they really have seen everything inside the cabin towards the skylight? They might not have been able to. Allow me to confirm one thing, Mr. Fairplay. Probably, like, man. And they tried to make you feel kind of bad for him because of stuff that transpired. And I was like, I don't know. This guy is just like kind of such a big asshole. I can't redeem him myself. You were riding this omnibus and witnessed the events in the cabin through the skylight in the floor of the upper deck. Is that right? That's right, yes. In that case, there's a portion of the cabin interior that would have been out of sight from you. What? What, golly, really? Yeah, I'm just saying, like, at the end of the game, even though he was like, oh, I guess I'm nice now, I was like, no, man, fuck you. Like, seriously, there's only so much you can take. No, I don't want him to be yours. Well, then I'll just kill him next time. Obviously, at this stage, we can't say for sure, but the possibility cannot be denied that at the time of the incident, there could have been another passenger in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus.
Objection!
Objection! Shut up, vampire. Enough hypothetical meandering, my Nipponese friend. The prosecution demands that you substantiate your claims. After all, the scene of the crime is here, in the flesh. Funny you should say it that way, you fiend. Very well, I will uphold the prosecution's demand. You will identify the area on this cross-sectional plan of the omnibus. Where exactly in the omnibus are you suggesting that this potential extra passenger could have been situated? Both rows of seats on the roof face the direction of travel, whereas the seats in the enclosed cabin face each other. Oh, dang! Well, that hippopotamus was like, fuck everybody except for Dez, I guess. Which means the visible part of the cabin, which passengers on the roof deck can see through the skylight, is as I've drawn here. Ah! That's right, my lord. As you can see, the seat opposite the one on which the victim and his attacker were sitting is obscured from view. That top-hatted gentleman is hiding in plain sight. In other words, if someone had been sitting on that seat, it's quite possible that the witnesses would have been completely unaware of it. Ah! That's right, mustache. It's okay, Anna. You will have your chance. You will have your day in the sun. The Pokemon Sun and Moon. Now available on 3DS. Anyway, it's quite possible some phantom was sitting there. You Nipponese have a forbidding habit of obscuring the truth with ambiguity. That's... Seeks, you can't say that. That's racist. That's like really racist. Super racist, sir. You people. Your people are always with their fancy hats and things, I guess. I concur with the prosecution's rejoinder. In a British court of law, evidence is paramount. We don't do the voodoo. I cannot entertain this conjecture, counsel. That is, unless you're able to put a name to this mysterious passenger to whom you allude. I don't know. Okay, well, the good thing is, Des, the reason why I can stand this guy a lot more than fucking Nayuta is because at least the racism is sprinkled on sparingly, whereas, like, Nayuta's insults and religious belligerence and everything was like when you try to pour salt and the cap comes off and all the salt comes out, and there's also, like, I don't know, it lights everything on fire. It's a really bad salt bottle. You should get a new salt, like, shaker. But at least this, every once in a while, is to kind of, like, punctuate rather than just being, like, straight up, like, every word out of his mouth is like something demeaning to the Japanese people. Double thing. Yeah, it was not my favorite. Can you, Mr. Naruhodo? I honestly don't know. Who could it have been? Who could have been in the other seat, which was out of sight from the witnesses on the roof deck? Do I have an inkling? Wait, I know! It was what's-his-face! I understand, my lord. I just think he's pretty. Well, yeah, but he's also just a huge asshole. The defense would like to put forward a name. Oh, you got another glass to replace your other glass you broke. You are a fool. That response was a desperate attempt by a man who has no notion of his own limitations. A toast to hard lessons not yet learned. I see, and I like this guy. I don't know. There's just something about his, like, he's kind of a pompous ass, but like in a very, I don't know. He presents it way better than just being like, I'm bad because I'm a dick and da-da-da. It's like, no, I'm the prosecution, and this is how things work here in Britain, you dang yellow man, whatever. Don't refer to Asians as yellow people. That's mean. Yeah, let us not delay, counsel. The defense is still to name the passenger in the other seat. And the funny thing is, I found out that I hated Nayuta, like, in the very first trial he existed in. And it just never got better. Like, then again, Blackwell, I was kind of like, I don't know if I like this guy. But he got a lot better. And I mean, I grew to be like, you know what, Blackwell's pretty cool. Even if he tries to kill me with his bird. Let us not delay, counsel. The defense is still to name the passenger in the other seat. Yeah, exactly, which makes it even worse. Because he was like, oh, holier than thou, mother, blah. But that guy was terrible. You had a lot of people killed, sir. On that night, on the night of the murder, the person occupying the seat in the omnibus cabin that obscured from view was you, Cesaro. I can't believe you killed him. No, it's our leprechaun friend, Magnus McGilded. Present it! The passenger in the enclosed cabin that the witness on the roof deck failed to see has to have been Mr. Magnus McGilded. Mr. McGilded? What are you talking about, counsel? That's the name of the defendant. All right.
Objection!
Oh, whoa! This time, he didn't just smash it, he threw it to the flames. Gosh darn it, Van Zeeks, you're so dramatic. But I mean, he is very British, so could you put it past him? I don't know if that's really a dig or not. If I desecrate this chamber by smashing my hallowed chalice, apparently I thought hallowed chalices were one of a kind, but he's apparently got an infinite supply of them somewhere. Do forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Zeeks! People talk of those tiny island nations in the Far East as having a learning and culture of their own. Oh no, this is us winding up the big racism punch. But I see they use the terms ill-advisedly. Oh, racism haymaker incoming. What are you trying to say? Let me explain in terms that even a student of an artless backwater such as yourself might understand. Allie, you're back for the racism. When the bloody scene unfolded, the victim and his assailant were sitting side by side. Multiple witnesses have attested to the fact. It's the very premise on which this case is built.
Objection!
Objection! But that premise may be wrong. Like, dang. Oh, stretch. Water. Yeah, good. Remember, a moment in time shared with your friends and their balls is a moment you'll always remember. Man, Sly Cooper is very good. I like the Sly Cooper games. Stretch. Yep. I forgot. My green screen's right there. You saw nothing. Ugh. But that premise may be wrong. What? If I had another glass, I'd throw it. Where did my bottle of wine blood go? I don't know. Don't ask me. It's just good stuff. I mean, I also have a weakness for like platformers and all that, but if the victim really was sitting beside Mr. McGilded, it creates an inconsistency that can't be reconciled in any way. What inconsistency, counsel? The defendant's gloves, my lord. Both witnesses made the same testimony. They claim that there was blood on both hands of the person sitting next to the victim.
Objection!
But that's wrong because I've got to be right. Yet we know the truth to be otherwise. Only one glove bears the gory remains. Yeah, it's.
Objection!
The point is, even in the face of this irrefutable evidence, both witnesses have maintained their stance. Yes, their testimony remains unchanged. Exactly, they both adamantly swear that they clearly remember seeing blood on both hands of the assailant. In short, their memory of the events is correct, and their testimony reveals the truth. It was somebody else sitting beside the victim that night, a third party we have yet to identify. And the victim's blood was on that passenger's hands. Both of them.
Objection!
And who was this third party? Obviously, the true culprit! Extraordinary! If you think that was cool, wait till you see that cool thing I can do with my sword, which is pulling it out to be like, aha, objection! Maybe. Order! 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 What exactly are you postulating? I thought you thought it was cool. The defense's postulation is just that, nothing more than conjecture. Yeah, he is so fed up. He's probably one of those guys who's like, I come in the room and then it's just done. But now this child... I don't even know how old Van Zieks is. Oh wait, no, he's 34. He looks older. Or 32. Wait, he's 32, isn't he? I'm older than him, which makes me sad. Yeah, he's 32. But he looks like he's seen a lot of things. The witnesses have clearly stated that they saw the accused. But when elaborating on his testimony, Mr. Fairplay said the two of them were wearing hats, and I couldn't exactly make out their faces. Yes. The tops of their heads were obscured by the roof. I could see the rest of them, though. Yeah, that's right. Both gents were most certainly hatted. Hatters do tend to notice such things, sir. And what particular styles of hat did the two gentlemen sport, Mr. First? Gotta tease the posh boy? Exactly. I think he'd do better if his hair wasn't so hairy. I'm afraid I don't remember. And now my hat's falling off It's not falling off! Just hang your head constantly, I guess. And you call yourself a hatter? The style of the hat makes no difference. There was no third passenger in that cabin. Oh, Allie, if you're out of balls, you can do this. You could do like that, and then you could buy more balls, and then you'll have more balls for the catching. You could just copy paste what I did if that's easier. I don't know, because I know sometimes autocorrect makes it very hard to do on the phone. Yeah, was there no third passenger? I think you're wrong. How can you be sure? Were you there? Because if there had been, the accused, Mr. McGilded, would undoubtedly have offered to depose the fact. Oh, son of a... Okay, why? I thought you... Okay, well, you could buy one or two then, probably. Sometimes it's kind of annoying. Unless, that is, you're proposing an even more preposterous explanation. It was me! That the accused failed even to notice the presence of the true culprit in the very cabin in which he traveled? Ah! He's right. If there was another person traveling in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus... Ah! Stupid. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, everybody. I ruined everybody else's chances to catch that Pokemon. I will bear the blame for this. Yeah, I kind of wish that they were there for longer than a minute and a half, because it's not a very long time, but... There was another person traveling in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus. It's inconceivable that Mr. McGilded would have been unaware of it. Order! There's clearly a simple solution to this problem. Bring the accused, Mr. McGilded, to the stand. Well, what say you, counsel? The prosecution objects, my lord. On what grounds? As a suspect, he will have already made a full statement to the police. But what if there's some reason why he's unable to speak freely? Magnus McGilded is no uneducated ruffian. If it indeed turns out the man has been withholding information, you can be sure it will have been a most deliberate act. Counsel for the defense, what is your opinion? My lord, I don't object. Should we ask Mr. McGilda to testify or not? Demand his testimony to leave well alone. All of the secondary ones are like, no, that's stupid. Why would I do that? Yes, we need to hear what he has to say in order to find out the truth. Please give, hi. The defense would like to call Mr. McGilda to the stand. In that case, I would like to hear the opinion of the jury. Ah, yes, I need a little time to... No, you don't need time. If you ask me, I think we should hear what Mr. McGilda has to say. Get the man out here, I say! Slap. It would be utterly illogical not to hear his testimony. When something needs doing, get it done. That's how I run things at the guild. Hearing what the patron of my favorite little park has to say? Oh yes, that would be lovely. Get fucked. Ah yes, the jury says the man must be heard. That's what I meant the whole time. Very well, the court will hear the defendant's testimony. Bailiff! Show the defendant to the stand at once. You got a pizza Lunchable for dinner? Yeah, no, I've had that before. Wait, I don't know why I thought you were older, but I always assume people on my stream are like, at least somewhat in the ballpark of my age. So, yeah. I don't know, they have kind of an aftertaste. I'll still eat them, but they're not like my favorite thing. I think I like the nuggies more, even if they're cold. Now, maybe what actually happened last night will finally become clear. Let proceedings be resumed. Mr. McGilded, have you been listening to the discourse of the day? Hi. It's the stress. Oh. To be sure I have, my lord. There are now two matters on which the court desires to hear from you. The first is whether or not there was a third party with you in the omnibus cabin, as proposed by the defense. The second is that if such a person was indeed present, why did you conceal the fact from the police? Begad, no! 'Tis not my nature to hide anything at all. Just answer the questions, please. The truth of the matter is, I've been desperate about this all along. Do I tell yous all, or do I keep my mouth shut? Tell us what, Mr. McGilded? The fine fella representing me is absolutely right. In the carriage on the night with myself and the other man, there was another passenger. It's true. Okay, 25 or 32. Yeah, babyface. I know. Well, I mean, that's not so bad, I guess. I mean, it does make it easier to be recognized, like, later on when people are like, oh, hey, it's you. And you're like, oh, yeah, I do look the same. I still do look hot as fuck. That's right. Thanks. It's true. 'Twas me who helped the little urchin get away after it all happened. Tree? That's a lot of trees. Also, hi, sir. Welcome on in. You'll love it in a decade or so. Yeah, exactly. What? But we wanted to know that. Why are you so upset, Ryunosuke? It's been ages. I know. It's been 84 years. I don't think that's what she sounded like. But hello, I hope you're doing well. You look very much like your high school freshman pictures. Oh, dang. Well, now I need to see the differences. Although, according to you, there's not a lot. I don't know, I feel like I look different, like, every year. But I guess it's because my facial hair. Like, if you don't have facial hair, your face is your face. When you have facial hair, your face could look like a lot of things, depending on how much or how little facial hair you have. Smoking an alter. Oh. Actually, no, you don't. Aw, it's okay. We're still full of vim and vigor, Seer. No, Magnus McGilded. That convenient excuse can't save you now. I'm truly sorry, so I am Lord Van Zeeks. I'm sure you'll be wanting to know I said nothing when I was taken in by the police. I do be having a very good reason, I assure you. Thankfully, yeah, you know, I don't wish it upon people who don't want it. I mean, you guys already have to shave like your leg. Well, if you do. Shaving legs is annoying. Shaving your face is worse. And, well, I guess figuring out what facial hair you want kind of sucks. And then having to keep it trimmed and all. Which was... She could grow a mustache to detract from your 5 head. Aw. Well, the little child was just in the wrong place at the wrong time and not in any way involved, you see. Are you sure? What? Sorry, that wasn't even his voice, but I'm like, what? If the police had known the wee one was there, they'd have assumed she'd done it. They'd have hauled her into this here courtroom, just like myself. I was only trying to spare her that. Young hearts and young minds are easily damaged, my lord. What? He's like, what? Huh. And who was this young child of whom you speak? That I don't know. You don't know? Well, the wee thing just happened to be in the carriage that night. I never saw her before or since.
Objection!
We have absolutely no reason to believe this man. The prosecution calls for the witness's statements to be disregarded by the court. I mean, I kind of have one too. I have floofy hair, so it covers it up. Like, especially like, I hate like this. This part is fine, but there's like this on the sides. It's really weird. I don't like it. I mean, hair. It's just what happens. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if the urchin isn't here in this courtroom as we speak, listening to the proceedings. What? Bang! Whoa! Somebody banged! She bangs! Ah, fire, fire! Look, someone's trying to get away! Cough after them! It's no use. I can't see anything through the smoke. What's going on? Be careful, Mr. Naruhodo. Cover your face. Bailiff, don't let the accused escape. Secure the omnibus. I hereby call an emergency recess. Bailiff, ensure the defendant is in custody and clear the courtroom. I know, this is like Judge Judy level stuff. We were hurriedly removed from the smoke-filled courtroom by the bailiff, amid the scene of chaos as people stumbled over one another in their desperation to flee the chamber. I know, man, she's gotta be like a really good, is it the stenographer in the courtroom? The one who records like everything that happens? Yeah, Widow Peaks, yeah, it's fine. I mean, to be fair, compared to my father, who like apparently lost his hair very early, and also he was like graying in his early 20s. I'm not doing too bad. I mean, I still have plenty of gray hairs, but not like, it's not like all the way. Actively hunting down your old pictures? Good, good. We had no idea what was happening. All we knew was that, for the time being at least, the trial was suspended. To be continued. So this would have gone on for over 3 hours before they let me save the game. We went through the investigation and trial part 1 and 2, and then they let us save before trial part 3, which is the final part of the trial. 18th of February, 12:52 p.m. The Old Bailey, defendant's antechamber. What on earth happened in there? Mr. Naruhodo, I managed to find out what happened. Wow, that's convenient. Miss Suzato? I was told it was an advanced form of smoke grenade, a type of exploding device that releases smoke. Yeah, the antechamber, as opposed to just the chamber. gotta watch out for that. They're just making sure everything is safe now. I think the trial will start up again before long. But who would have done something like that? The police managed to catch someone who was trying to flee the courtroom, apparently. Flee the courtroom? Why? Well, it's a young girl of around 15, I hear. A young girl? Then could it be? Is it she? Yeah, the not chamber. Exactly. You get it, Seer. The other passenger that Mr. McGilded was just talking about. My thoughts exactly. So he wasn't lying. Oh, what's become of Mr. McGilded, actually? There's so many things I need to ask him about, but he's not here. I think he was summoned to the prosecutor's antechamber to answer some questions, along with the young girl. Who is she, I wonder? And what was she even doing here at the trial? She was taking a huge risk, and for what possible benefit to herself? There's another matter that's troubling me. What's that? The 20 pence. According to the coachman, Mr. Beppo, so many flippies, he took 4 passengers that night at a fare of 5 pence each. That comes to a total of 20 pence exactly. But now it seems there were in fact 5 passengers. Yeah, 20 pence, that's a lot of pence. Which means the figures don't seem to add up again because she was a stowaway. She's right. That's strange. Counsel for the defense, kindly proceed to the courtroom. The trial will recommence in 5 minutes. Oh, thank you, officer. We're going straight away. Well, whoever she is, I imagine this young girl will be asked to take the stand and testify now. Really can't imagine what she's gonna say, but it could alter the whole direction of the trial. It's a Phoenix Wright game, of course. Well, Ace Attorney game, I should say. We'll know soon enough, Miss Susato. Yes! Also, man, Donut County was a trip. Not gonna lie. There's a young girl next to Mr. McGilded. Look! She's about to start Naruto running towards Area 51. You love that game. It was very good, though. Like, it was... there was a lot more in it that I was not expecting at all, but it was a fun little game. She must have been the one who caused the disturbance before. Well, after that rather eventful recess, the court will now resume the trial of Mr. Magnus McGilded. Now then, Lord Van Zeeks. My lord, I believe you have established the cause of the smoke which veiled the proceedings earlier. It seems to have been an advanced form of smoke grenade, of the sort typically employed by the army. Good gracious, the army? What in the devil's name? It was an elaborate attempt by a young girl to cloak her escape from the public gallery. But she was caught. And now occupies the stand. Your name, girl? Are you responsible for the smoke grenade which induced such pandemonium here in my courtroom? What is the meaning of this deplorable behavior? If I may, my lord? Yes, Mr. McGilded. I think perhaps I ought to explain here. Why is it that this wee lass here was in the first place, and why she tried to bolt like that? 'Tis all tied up with the events of the night, so it is. So yeah, see, sometimes. Very well, Mr. McGilded. Give your testimony. You will explain to the court exactly how this young woman is involved in the case. Well, she's actually a serial killer. Ba-da-da-da. Just what did happen that night? It's not like a defense lawyer needs that information or anything. The young girl. On the night in question, I took the back seat in the omnibus and promptly nodded off. Then, begorra! A loud thud and a wee scream woke me up with a fair start. There was a fella collapsed on the floor at me feet, so I set him up on the seat across me. Then I turned to find out where that scream had come from, and bless my soul, what did I find? There was a child there, all curled up in a ball, hiding her wee self away. Okay. I remain somewhat baffled, I confess, but from what I gather on the night in question, this young girl was indeed riding the omnibus. Is that correct? 'Tis exactly as the defense counsel said. This last was the 5th passenger, my lord. But she didn't pay to get on. Very well. The defense may now cross-examine the witness. A second. Are you ready? Counsel? Yes, my lord. But not really, because you saw my eyes darting. Oh, rather, no, I'm never ready. No idea where to start. And Van Zeeks is like, haha, he doesn't know where to start. I have him right where I want him. Hold it! And when you first got on the omnibus, were there any other passengers already on board? There were not. The cabin was empty and there was no one on the roof deck either. You were the first passenger, as it were, I see. Aye, and that's why I took the backside as I did. 'Tis the most comfortable, so it is. Could you explain exactly what you mean by the back seat? By all means, 'tis how you already described it earlier. I'm talking about the seat opposite the one in which the poor gentleman who's stabbed was sitting. Like I said, 'tis the most comfortable and where I feel most at ease. And of course, I enjoy gazing through the skylight from time to time as well. Hold it! A loud thud, you say, and a scream. Oi, that's right. How could I explain it? 'Twas like the sound of someone falling to the ground. That sort of noise. So you think it was the sound of Mr. Mason falling to the floor after being stabbed? Well, now, you'll remember I was asleep at the time, so I wouldn't like to say. But when the sound woke me up and I opened my eyes, there wasn't a soul to be seen in the carriage but the fella on the floor. You didn't see anyone. But at the same moment, you did hear a scream. Ah, from the seats above you on the roof deck, I presume. Not above me, no, my lord. 'Twas from inside the cabin. But I wasn't altogether thinking about the scream. No, I was too stunned by the desperate sight before my eyes.
Hold it!
You sat him up, the victim, you mean? That I did, on the seat across from me, as I said. I could plainly see the poor devil was already gone. And you wouldn't leave a dead man just lying on the floor now, would you? Ching! 'Tis common courtesy, so it is. Yeah, I find that a little hard to believe. Ara, Lord Van Zeeks. Now, why would that be? You wake up to find a dead man at your feet in a carriage. Any normal person would hail the cabman. Any upstanding member of London society, that is. Well now, as you know, I'm something of a special line of business. The business of lending money at exorbitant rates of interest. Unfortunately, my lord, not everyone is thankful for the help I offer them, and some would even see me dead. So I do try, where at all possible, to avoid getting myself in a tangle with trouble. Are you suggesting you were going to leave the man there? Heavens alive, no! I was always intending to report it, so I was. Only, I had a mind to find out the whys and the wherefores first. The whys and the wherefores? Right you are. There were some details I wanted to understand before, anyone else got to meddling. That wee scream I heard, for example. Wouldn't your good self do just the same? Yes, the scream he says he heard at the same time as the thud of the victim collapsing. Bless your soul, what did you find? Bless your soul. I'm afraid I don't understand. I'm sure you told the court that there was no one else in the carriage except yourself and the victim. So I did, sir. So I did. As far as I could see, that is. What do you mean by that? Well, now, 'tis a queer thing. The wee scream I heard as I woke up. It came from, if you'll excuse the vulgar expression, under me backside. Good gracious! Under your backside? Isn't that just a fart? No. And when I lifted the seat on which I'd been sitting, I found there was a wee cubbyhole there for storage. Mr. Naruhodo, we can examine the omnibus ourselves, remember? Yes, of course, the whole bus was submitted as evidence. I know, I checked, I knew about the cubbyhole. And that's when I found her. And I was like, I wonder if someone small could fit in there. Yeah, God, sometimes I'm just so smart. I can't believe it. Or my random conjecture turns out to be something cement. I am very smart, thank you. That's when I found her. There's a child in there, yeah, blah, blah, hiding her wee self away. You say she was hiding herself? Oi, that's right. 'Twas hard to see in the dim lamplight, but she was all curled up in a wee ball. When our eyes met, well, me heart nearly stopped beating in me chest. You're really overacting this. Yeah, it's starting to make me wonder about your intentions, sir. Still in all, I pulled her out from under there and sat her on the seat opposite so I could have a wee chinwag with her. Seat opposite? That's right, just next to the dead gentleman there. That's where you put a child, next to the dead man. You sat this young girl next to a corpse, sir? Well, as I'm sure I mentioned, a gentleman in my position can all too often find himself in mortal danger. So, I needed to find out just who this urchin was, you see. And while I was in the middle of talking to her, I heard another scream, a fella's voice this time. Presumably that scream was Mr. First, who was sitting on the roof deck seats. Right you are again, I would say, sir. Looking down through the skylight, he must have seen this young girl and the gentleman with a knife in his belly. In other words, the previous witness did not, in fact, see you at all, Mr. Gilded. what they believed to be yourself and the victim was in fact this girl and the late Mr. Mason. Aye, my lord. I was, as I think everyone understands now, sat at the back of the carriage, out of sight. Certainly is plausible. It was suicide. I mean, it could be. But, well, I guess his blood would have also been on his hands. I don't know. Something's up, though. The defendant is somewhat diminutive in stature, and readily confused, perhaps, with this young girl. After that, of course... With the scream from the gentleman over us, the driver realized something was wrong and pulled up the horses. Thank you, I've heard enough. The events, as explained, are clear in my mind. However, at least one conundrum remains. Who is the girl? Her name is Gina Lestrade, my lord. She's a chancer, earns her crust among large crowds, relieving people of their purses. What's commonly called a pickpocket. What? This girl here? A petty thief? Wow, she's not petty. Order! Order! Is this true, Miss Lestrade? Miss Lestrade, you will answer the question. She just shot the judge! How dare you? What is the meaning of this? Okay, bye, I guess. The girl, she's gone. Open your eyes. I'm over here. Oh, wow. I'm over here. Yeah. Good gracious, how? What was the point of that little sidestep? I know what you lot are thinking. Grown-ups are all the same. This dirty little dipper, you'll say, slipped up and got caught on the job. She got herself backed into a corner, so she knifed the gent. Go on. That's what's in your heads, ain't it? No, not at all. This is a court of law. We're here to understand the... Oh, no! I get the green! Oh, no. Look, knives are for cowards. Only thugs use weapons like that. All I need is what I do with these fingers. Could be said of a lot of professions. I'm a professional, all right? Maybe not in your eyes, but I've got pride in what I do. It's okay. I've been having pretty bad catch rates. Right before the catch rate seems to work out. Mess with those numbers. Let me guess, you don't count smoke guns among weapons for thugs? Oh, this? Yeah, this was in a bag I lifted the other day, down where they keep the four-wheeled drags. It's nice, isn't it? I like the pink best. Do not wave that thing in my direction again. Oh, another glass. Are we gonna break this one? So, you admit that you were riding the omnibus on the night in question. He's just a drunkard. At this point, yeah. Tis alright, lass. You can tell them the truth now. Alright, yeah. It's just like the Irishman said. Wait, is she supposed to be Scottish then? I don't know. I don't know. This court accepts this girl, Miss Gina Lestrade, as a valid and significant witness in this case. Accordingly, young lady, we will now hear your testimony, if you please. You will tell the court exactly what happened in the omnibus the night in question. All right, if I have to... What the girl saw. So I snuck inside the carriage before they hooked up the horses, just like always. But it was a right old waste of time. I got nothing to show for me troubles last night. I tell you can't see a blind thing in that hiding place. It's pitching there. Then after a while, I hear this loud bang. Nearly jumped out of me skin, I did, and the scream just came out. It's because of that the swell found me. He did help me get away, mind. Yes, he let you go. I fail to understand why you would let the street urchin go, Mr. McGilded. Oh, 'tis simplicity in itself, my lord. You see, she couldn't possibly have killed the other passenger. I knew that for a fact. How? As I'm sure I said before, sir. I was sitting right on top of the place where she was hiding herself. I think a demonstration is called for. Yeah, there's a seat. This is where I was sat that night. And the cubbyhole of which you have spoken is underneath the seat, I presume. Da-da-da, cubbyhole. Wow. Yes, it does appear just large enough to accommodate someone of the girl's stature. Yeah, like I said. Why aren't you listening to me? Aye, but of course, the wee lass was stuck in there. Because I'd parked myself on the seat for the duration. Oops. Ah! Yeah, she couldn't move, yeah. He's babysitting. Oh, so you see, that's why I let the lass bolt. I knew that if the police found her, they'd automatically assume she'd done it. But I couldn't live with myself if a young life was ruined, when all the time I knew she was innocent. Maybe later down the line she'd need a loan from yours truly. Couldn't let that opportunity get away. Even though you must have realized your action would result in your own innocence being called into question. Not at all, my lord, not at all. I knew in my own heart that I was innocent. So I thought it was worth taking a punt on my own good name for the sake of this less fortunate lass. Ah, my goodness, he's such a nice man, what a perfect gentleman! My lord, this fine example of a man cannot possibly be guilty of a heinous crime like this. I'm ashamed of myself for ever doubting you, sir. Do it! Put it in! Oh my god! We're so close! We need one more flame for total... With calm, calculated reasoning, one arrives clearly at the truth every time. Wait, but does that even... Yeah, okay, we're all... I don't think he did it. Look! He's the not guilty fire. I think he's going to kick it after this, because he's going to be super pissed. Like, damn. Saints alive! All 6 members of the jury consensual in their leaning towards the not guilty. I'm sorry. I mean, I know that consensual is that could. It's just. It's. I'm not. That wasn't the word. It could unanimous maybe. Leg time. Mr. Naruhodo, this. Well, it must mean. It must mean what? Hey, Meal Mage, thank you so much for the raid. That wording is cumbersome. Yeah, whore behavior. No. No, we're victorious. No kink shaming. We love whores here. Well, don't call them that. Sex worker is a good enough term. Guilty! No, not guilty. Not. We've won? Are you sure? Objection! Wait! Leg! His leg time! He literally just puts his whole ass leg. Who does that? Who does that? There's some nice boots, though. Good job on the boots there. It's the leg! I thought he was actually going to kick his desk. He did the leg. In the sight of my iron-heeled Wellington offends, or if the sight, pray do forgive the discourtesy. Look upon my foot. Whoa! Damn, that's a foot! Oh! Ooh, all the ladies are very... Do you guys have something to tell us, ladies? That leggy. This really is a consummate example of the one monumental flaw in British judicial practices. Not enough feet. Where evidence and reasoning should be paramount, emotion rules the day. Emotion? Bonk. The witness's latest statement gives us a clear insight into his true nature. What do you mean his true nature? Yeah, that man was literally like, hey! Look upon. Oh, I hope you're not offended by my foot, but judicial systems suck. So look upon my foot. You can't see it, but it's there. Anyway. Oh, God. Do you really think Scotland Yard would have made such a glaring omission? After the incident, the omnibus was comprehensively searched by officers of the police. Yeah, that, like, wait, did he put it, like, up by his head and then down? It feels like it was pretty high. Yeah! Dang, this guy flexing on us, rude. Obviously, the interior of this cubbyhole, as the witness put it, was included in their investigation. The compartment under the posterior seat was full of the coachman's belongings. It is noted in black and white here in the police report. Good Lord! The evidence has been tampered with. In order to corroborate Mr. McGilded's story, someone has unlawfully removed everything from under the seat. What? But I looked at it earlier. I mean, come on, look. She could fit in there still. Order! Order! How could such a devious contrivance possibly have been effected, counsel? Naturally, we must acknowledge the deficiencies of the constabulary in allowing this to have happened. However, I assure you, when the omnibus was wheeled into the courtroom this morning... Oh God, that's perfect for that. Desterly. The compartment under the seat was not empty. Well, my Nipponese friend... me? When the carriage was submitted as evidence... Doubtless you examined it in fine detail, as would any self-respecting practitioner of the law. Pray, what did you find the condition of the underseat compartment to be? Are you telling me to tell you, like, Do you want to know about my ass? I mean, it was a little itchy earlier, but that's just because I was sitting down for a while. But then I got up and scratched it, so it was all good. Oh, to be sure, the young gentleman will be able to clear this up in a jiffy. Sorry? Go ahead, you tell the court now, fella. How this is all an elaborate excuse by the desperate Lord Van Zeeks. Well, counsel, do you have something to say on this matter? It wasn't empty. But it also wasn't full. I don't really know if giving this answer is helping my case as counsel for the defense, but as far as I remember at least, when I first examined the compartment, I'm fairly certain there were a number of articles inside it, yes. Are you sure, counsel? Be whist! What are you saying now, you daft daw? I thought you were on my side here. Yeah, but I'm not gonna lie. What game are you playing? Your task is to defend the man on the stand. Why would you say something to compromise his position? You didn't let me explain. As the advocate for the defense in this trial, I confess I'm still not entirely sure where I stand. But it seems to me that I should state the facts I do know as clearly and honestly as possible. Interesting. 'Tis not altogether pleasin', fella. I'm simply telling the truth, Mr. McGilded. Well, don't forget that you're supposed to be representing my best interests here, lad. I'm not a liar. Now then. A fella's memory is a curious thing and not altogether reliable. No, the court must consider the facts. That their cubbyhole under the seat is as empty as the devil's heart, so it is. Do you think perhaps it would be in your best interest now to admit that you might have been mistaken? Why? Why do I feel like something's not right here? Yeah. I bet she stole the stuff out of the compartment when she blasted things. That compartment is designed to house equipment used to maintain the smooth running of the carriage. The guide's rules state the omnibus buses should be properly and fully equipped at all times. So it certainly wouldn't have been empty on the night in question. Beppo isn't that irresponsible. That money-lending fleecer and the pick purse are lying. Oh, we're swapping back over again because you're lying, you dumb bastard. Ah! Can't believe I was nearly taken in. Ah, stinking rich are always stinkers. Nothing but cowards. A lot of them. Oh no. It's a trick, of course it's a trick. Nice one. Quite so, I must concur here. Ah, jeez. Oh, well, cool. Okay, I gotta say, the over-dramatization of this is kind of annoying. Yeah, it's been a different truth. Okay. Look, we're back to being balanced. Just like Fox News. I don't know. Like, I feel like if the judge got hit by one of those fireballs, he'd be gone. He's especially flammable with all that facial hair. My lord, I humbly exhibit the scales of justice. Clearly, a verdict of not guilty at this time would be wholly inappropriate. Oh, no, basically, the carriage had, like, stuff in the little compartment, so what he's trying to say is that nobody could fit in there, but there was enough space for her in there. There was just other stuff, too. Somebody took all the stuff out of the compartment, and when they asked me, I was like, no, there was stuff in the compartment. And he was like, you're on my side, and I'm like, dude, I'm not gonna lie, and now that he lied about it, people are starting to tip the scales back to guilty because they're like, oh, look at this rich man lying. It's like, come on, everybody. But before we proceed any further, there's the matter of the outstanding cross-examination. Counsel for the defense, we begin questioning of the witness, please. Get the girl to replicate the... Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I'm down for some contort. I can't say that. I don't know how old she is, but... Anyway, we'll figure it out. We're gonna play some Tetris. You're the L block, I guess. Yes, my lord. What just happened? Oh, balance of the trial just shifted almost beyond recognition. That's what happens when people are like, fuck the rich. The Reaper of Bailey is at work, it would seem. Da, da, da. Okay. Cross-examination time. What the girl saw. Oh yeah, because we got these statements and then... Oh, what a waste of time. Hold it! What? Sir, did you come back to me talking about positions with a young girl? Because don't worry about it. It's for the courtroom. And when Mr. McGilda discovered you, he pulled you out from your hiding place? I was scared stiff, I was. He dragged me out and sat me down on the seat and all. Next to the victim, Mr. Mason. Yeah, the bloke had a knife in his guts. He was still bleeding. Then the carriage lurched a bit, and he ended up falling onto me. Ugh, how awful. Both me and hands got covered in blood. Made me feel sick as a dog. You're playing Cozy Grove. Oh, and you're concerned. You're not. Why are you concerned? It's for. It's for the sake of this man. Little girl, squeeze yourself into that box now. Both of her hands covered in blood. That must be what the rooftop passenger saw. After that, I believe you talked with Mr. McGilda for a while, is that correct? He asked me some stuff. Wanted to know me name and what I was up to and all that. Then I heard something from up above. Someone screamed. Yes, Mr. First on the roof deck, one would presume. Well, I didn't want no one seeing me face, so I didn't look up. Then the horses were drawn up smarters, and this here Irishman says to me, get back under the seat. I'll see that you can get away later. Huh. All 6 members of the jury had decided that is innocent for one brief shining moment. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, they're still I know. I'm sure something's bothering me. Cole, let me do the thing.
Hold it!
So you couldn't see out into the cabin at all? Not a jot. Most days I push the cushion up with me head and look out the crack. Then I can have a butcher's at who I'm gonna fiddle. That's a lot of words put together. You're not old enough to be fiddling anybody right now, young lady. I thought you were a pickpocket, not a butcher. Ah ha ha! I mean, I can't have a look. The seat I get under ain't as plush as the other ones, see? So most of the time, the passengers plant themselves opposite. But for some reason that night, this here Irishman spent the whole journey right over me head. For that reason, you weren't able to push the cushion up to peek out, I see. Truth is, I ain't too happy in small, dark places. Feels too much like I'm being thrown in the clink. Hello, why are you laughing there, sir?
Excuse me.
Is something wrong, Mr. McGilded? Oh, I do apologize. Or is there something the matter, counsel? Just wondering if Miss Lestrade's last comment made something occur to you, perhaps. You seem to be thinking something to yourself. Oh, no. 'Twas nothing important. I was feeling bad for the poor lass is all. I remember feeling desperate myself as a young lad shut up in the dark. 'Twas terrifying, so it was. I see, yes, I'm sure we can all sympathize. Still scared of the dark now, and good job. Aye, and I don't know about yourself, but I find that the darkness seems to make everything you here seem much louder as well. What? Is that kind of a secret signal? Yeah. I suppose it does. Maybe. What? Miss Lestrade! Ba-ba-da-ba. Did you hear something that night? Anything? An unusual noise, perhaps? Nah, not really. All I could hear was the Irishman snoring. But jobbers! There's no need to tell the old world of me foibles, you little scamp. What a pity. I don't know what a foible is. If only she had heard something, it would give us a vital new clue. Yeah. It's profoundly important because it's different, and it made him go, ha-ha. My lord! I believe the statement just made by the witness is profoundly important. I said that in my head, but now that I said it out loud, it sounds kind of silly, but I'm going with it. Profoundly important, but all she said was that she heard nothing. Yeah, which is profoundly important. I'm almost sure of it. I mean, Tumblr's thirsty for a lot of things. To be fair. I'm almost sure that I don't understand the inner workings of your Eastern Mind Council. Who says that? Dang, I don't understand your dang ramen mind. 20th century England, my dude. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's more of like a sign of the times rather than it being like, this is just his case. It's just, this was set back when things were kind of dodgy. Also, hi, Zyla. Welcome back. Are you back home now? Miss Gina Lestrade. Yeah, sadly, it's okay. I mean, you got that time though, which is great. But yeah, I'm still liking this guy. I'm liking him quite a bit. His drama. No, you're fine. You will supplement your formal testimony by repeating that last statement, please. What, supplement? What are you on about? Don't give me all your fancy talk. I know what you're trying to do, but it won't work on me. That's right, insult the judge. Always a good move.
Hold it!
So you were straining to hear what was happening the entire time, since the moment you hid yourself. Not exactly, no. Sorry. Well, there was no one in the cabin to start with. I could just push the cushion up and have a butcher's to see what was what. But then when I saw the swell getting on, I got my head down and you didn't notice me. And Mr. McGill had sat on the seat under which you were hiding, correct? Yeah! Ooh. Would you Adam and Eve it then? What a mug! What the fuck? Gee, I need translations. So then all I could do was listen. I was waiting to jump out of there as soon as I heard him leave, see? But witty? Not likely. Even though we stopped here and there, I never heard the door open. So I just had to stay in there and listen to him driving his pigs to market, snoring like an old dog he was. Wonder if there are any conclusions we can draw from that. It doesn't add up because he wasn't the only passenger. Miss Lestrade, what you have just told the court is a fucking lie! At odds? Are you sure, man? Yes, absolutely. It seems my learned Nipponese friend is not as dull-witted as I feared. So Van Zeeks realized it too. Counsel, I must insist that you bolster your claim with evidence, or some complicit party's name at the very least. Yes, my lord. I expect you to demonstrate this alleged contradiction to the court. According to Miss Lestrade, while she was hiding in the omnibus last night, she heard nothing but the sound of Mr. McGilded snoring. Think, Ryunosuke, think! Clap, clap! There's something else she should have heard. Show a person. Very well, my lord. Allow me to elaborate on a particular sound that Miss Lestrade could not have failed to hear on the night in question. The sound very clearly explained by the presence of this person. Ba-da-da-ba, thrice fired Mason.
Take that!
Ba-da-doo. Thrice fired Mason? Yes, my lord. The sound that Miss Lestrade cannot have failed to hear is that of the victim, Mr. Mason, boarding the omnibus. Order, order! Explain your reasoning, counsel. Miss Lestrade, allow me to confirm something. You claimed earlier that you were the first person on board the omnibus. Is that correct? Yeah, of course I was. I got on while the driver was in the pub, didn't I? And the next person to board on the omnibus was Mr. McGilded. That it was, and not a soul was in the cabin when I climbed aboard. Oh yeah, sleep is very good. I know I'm probably only gonna finish up this, well, shit, I don't even know how long this freaking thing is. Oh no. So we've been streaming, oh god, we've been streaming for like 5.5 hours. Granted, about an hour of that was me eating and doing other stuff, but it's okay, you did your best. At least not in plain sight. So you were, to all intents and purposes, alone in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus at that time. Oh wait, you still had one left, yeah, because I think you bought 2 earlier. Did I not just say as much? I wasn't traveling with anyone else, if that's what you mean. Yeah, I saw him get on, remember? Or crack under the seat cushion. He was on his own, for sure. And from what we've heard, the carriage made a number of stops after that on its onward journey. During which time, did you not hear the door opening or closing at all? No, I never heard it. That's exactly what I was listening for, weren't it? Waiting for the swell to leave. Holy shit, guy, wait! Which means that Mr. Mason never got on inside. When and how did the victim end up in the carriage? Ah! We know that the victim collapsed inside the enclosed cabin of the omnibus. Therefore, Miss Lestrade's statement about what she did or did not hear is at odds with the facts. Ah. Dang, Allie. Yeah, Allie's been getting every last one, just sucking up everybody's luck, I guess. Yes, this petty thief's statement was clearly flawed. Lord Van Zeeks! Well, we did our best. Have a good one, Beth. Thank you so much for stopping by. I'm glad you got to see the foot and leg before you went. Yes, he knew all too well that there was an inconsistency in Miss Lestrade's statement. It would seem words of thanks are in order for my learned friend. The leg bids you at yes. Goodbye. What are you talking about? Wait, what are you going to do now? Oh, you're just standing up. You have demonstrated matters impeccably. This witness and her colorful statements are entirely unreliable, or her words are convenient untruths, nothing more. Wow, that's a bold statement. I didn't say that. He's dead right. How could the victim possibly not have boarded the omnibus? That makes no sense whatsoever. The girl is a pickpocket. Let's not regret that. Ah, no, don't do it, Granny. No, Granny! No, the flames again. Ugh, son of a... Granny, you just do whatever you want, I guess. She didn't even say anything. I don't want to judge the dear little mite just because she has some rather naughty ways. But I must say, I can't abide liars. Neither can I. No, Mr. Foreman, no. I didn't want to judge the girl just because she has some less than salubrious ways. But I must say, I cannot abide liars. No. Okay, maid, come on. How many times is this gonna happen? Can we go back to the part where me and Herlock Sholmes are dancing? Yeah, it's 5 towards guilty. Oh, somebody's pouring his wine. Ready to celebrate already. Well, your consideration for others is refreshing, my Nipponese friend. Through the considerable troubles you have spared me. Yeah. Delicious blood. Yes, very refreshing. Ah! God, what are ye playing at? Have you forgotten who you're working for, you useless Eastern Amadon? What? No! Stop licking the knife with your creepy licking animation. This is carnage. It's perfect. Juror number 2 is the only one left. Mr. Naruhodo, the way this is going, I know, if we can't find a new way to convince everyone of Mr. McGilda's innocence, the judge will rule and we'll have lost. We don't talk about his tongue animation. It's insane. Somebody had to do that. Somebody was like, I'm using my mouse to make this do this thing. And somebody was like, stamp of approval, good job. I very much wanted to believe the words of one of London's most respected gentlemen. But those of us in service know we must accept hard truths. Did you work today, Seer? Hold it! Don't do it! Yes, the witness's last statement seems to have revealed a critical inconsistency in her story. However, if we consider the possibility that her statement is in fact the truth, it may shed an entirely new light on this whole case. What are you saying? Counsel! I'm sorry, sir. Whatever do you mean? Counsel, I will not tolerate your attempting to prorogue my agitation. Shut up. You're back 6 days a week. Oh no! Only Wednesday. Okay, well, there's that at least. Explain yourself at once. When the accused boarded the omnibus on the night in question, the victim was nowhere to be seen. Subsequently, the carriage door was not heard opening a single time, as testified by the witness in the stand. And yet the victim's body was found inside the carriage. If this petty thief's words are to be believed, how do you explain the victim's miraculous appearance inside the cabin of the omnibus? There's only one way to explain. There was another entrance! If the door wasn't opened even once, the only explanation is that the victim entered the enclosed cabin some other way.
Objection!
That's stupid. I wondered what new fantasy you would come up with in your blind panic. But behold, the omnibus is here for all to see. Only one side of the enclosed cabin is furnished with a door. The other only has windows. Fixed windows which cannot possibly open. In short, there's no entrance to the cabin other than the door. But there could be. There's one possibility you haven't considered, you foppish man. Oh, really? Yes, one other way inside that isn't the door. Another opening the use of which allowed the victim to appear inside the enclosed cabin. All right, counsel. The defense will identify the location for the court. Here's the omnibus on which the incident occurred. Where on earth is this entrance by which you propose the victim entered the cabin? The skylight. The answer is obvious. It can only have been the skylight. I say, the skylight?
Objection.
Your ludicrous proposal almost has me at a loss. Has me lost for words. However,
Objection.
the skylight may well be large enough for someone to pass through.
Objection.
So you claim, but do you have a shred of evidence to support your addle-brained theory? Both Mr. McGilden and Miss Lestrade said the same in their testimonies. They each claimed to have heard a loud thud, such as the noise made by someone falling to the floor. Yes, which has already been explained. As the sound of the victim falling from his seat, having been assaulted with the dagger. Yes, it has, but would a man slipping from the seat onto the floor really have made such a loud noise as the witness described? A noise loud enough to cause Miss Lestrade to let out an involuntary cry, in fact. Good gracious! Perhaps, in fact, that was the moment that the victim made his entrance into the cabin. No, let me rephrase that. The victim didn't enter the cabin as such. He fell into it. You're now suggesting that the victim fell from the skylight into the cabin. That's simply impossible. How can you be sure? It is a circus. That's like every goddamn Ace Attorney. Like when we were at the circus and we were like, this is the circus. Because if the victim had fallen inside through the skylight, as you say, the passengers on the roof deck would have seen it happen. And yet, not one person made mention of such events in their testimony. Well, yes, that's true, but, Oh, hello? Might a humble fella make a wee comment here? No, don't talk about penises right now. It's not the time. But Mr. McGilden. To be sure now, the two fellas who were sat on the roof that testified afore said nothing of the victim falling through the skylight. But it seems to me, my lord, that 'tis not so much a case of them not saying, but, 'tis a case of them being unable to say. What? I think perhaps the two fellas do be having something of a compelling reason not to mention what happened. Would you not agree, fine ladies and gentlemen of the jury? Hum! Oh my goodness, surely not. Those two chaps on the roof. You mean, the ones who stuck that knife in the man were... Oh! Hey, you seem to be freaking out for some reason. Just what exactly are you insinuating here, you blitherer? You rotter, he said, you rotter! Whoa, what are you insinuating? Calm down with the fisticuffs first. This is a flaming outrage. I have a good mind to give you a blinker in a minute. He'll give you a shiner in a minute, he said, and so will I. Mr. Fairplay? You're effectively accusing me, a city gentleman and well-respected banker. And me, a very angry hatter. Okay. He's the Mad Hatter right now. You guys get it? You get it? Suggesting that someone like me could have stabbed that man in the guts, it's a disgrace. It's scandalous. I protest. I protest in the strongest possible terms. That's right, I protest too. About you, you rotten scoundrel. Oh, we're all over there now, I guess. We moved. Order, order, order. It's not the time, witnesses. I'll return to the anteroom at once. But this is beyond reason, my lord. That's outrageous. It's very hurtful, you know. My lord, if I may comment. Go ahead, Lord Van Zeeks. It was the defense that incited this little outburst from the witnesses. My learned friend has seen fit to abandon all protocol and accuse the witnesses without proof. Accuse? I never intended to. It seems, young Nipponese, that your command of the English tongue is wanting. Shut up! I hate you. But not really. You're all right with your leg. You proposed to this court that the victim fell through the skylight from the roof deck of the omnibus. That hypothesis cannot possibly stand without the rooftop passengers being aware of the events. You have branded these gentlemen as liars. You have intimated their criminal guilt. In our British courts of law, that is what is termed a baseless accusation. What? I know I was rash to put the idea forward without any actual evidence, but come on. They totally did it. You can't dismiss it without a second thought. What are we wasting time for? Get them to testify! I thought there was something fishy about that hat from the moment I laid eyes on that fellow. We have to see this matter through now, one way or another. If there's filth and rubbish in our midst, we must dispose of it at once. But what's happening, Mr. Naruhodo? Spectators in the public gallery are in a complete frenzy. Yeah. Well, specific ones, apparently. Mr. Fairplay and Mr. First. My lord? You will take the stand again and make another formal testimony in reference to the indictment brought by the defense. Yes, my lord. I didn't come here for this. There's no time to think this through. All I can do is keep pushing forward. Refuting the accusation. Ba ba ba. We were the only two people up on that roof deck, dead or alive, I can swear to that. If anything bad had happened while we were sitting, don't you think the one or the other would have noticed? In any case, neither of us know the first thing about the victim. We had no reason to kill that man. The skylight was shut the entire time, I tell you. We couldn't possibly have opened it. If you're so sure the victim fell through the skylight, where's your proof? Must say that, on listening to this testimony, it is somewhat hard to imagine how either witness could have performed any malevolent act on this open rooftop deck without the other noticing forthwith, unless they were working together. I don't know. That's right, you see. We're innocent, I tell you. Although, logically, of course, the argument falls down if the two of you were in collusion with one another. What? According to investigations by Scotland Yard, the two witnesses share no common dealings. Well, I don't trust coppers any more than I trust the stinking rich. So Something doesn't feel right here. Trial's going in our favor, really. So why do I feel so uneasy? Counsel for the defense, over to you. Your cross-examination, please. Oh yes, my lord. So you had never met Mr. Thrice-Fired Mason before? Ah, Loom, no! Not once. Never! He'd never met the man before, he said. Never! And you, Mr. First, had no prior dealings with the victim either? That's right, sir. Hatters don't have much to do with brickmakers, to be perfectly honest, sir. No, I imagine not. You see, how many different ways can I put this? Neither of us have the remotest connection to the gentlemen who are inside the cabin. Oh, except for this man, who's got a bounty on your head, basically.
Excuse me.
Excuse me. Pardon me. Mr. McGilded? Yes, counsel? What can I be doing you for? Did the witness's last statement give you pause for thought somehow? Not the remotest connection. Is that right now? I wonder. What are you insinuating now? Ah, Mr. Fairplay. Has been too long, so it has. Eh? If I'm not very much mistaken, I believe 'tis fast approaching, is it not? Your repayment date. I beg your pardon? You borrowed 20 guineas from me, sir. At an unconscionable rate of interest. You tricked me. It's extortion. Well, now, is that a touch of begrudgery, is it? The sort of begrudgery that might motivate a fella to pass off his crimes on another. Darr! And young Mr. First. Me, sir? What do you want with me, sir? You do be making hats for a living, do you not? That there top hat sliding about on your head, is that one of your own creations, is it? Oh, well, I'm still just an apprentice, you understand. I'm learning to find the perfect fit for whatever fine gent walks through the door. A perfect fit, is it? Very well, 'tis a very distinctive design, so it is. Wait a second. Wait. Is he wearing the fucking brickmaker's hat? Oh god, why are we bringing the hat? Many customers like it, I tell you, they like a distinctive touch. Or maybe he's just making fun of it for being a shitty hat. Customers, such as Thrice-Fired Mason. Oh. Ah! There was a photographic print of the victim submitted as evidence afore, my lord. Ah, yes, this you mean? I can't help thinking that poor fellow's hat looks distinctly familiar, wouldn't you say? Oh! That's one of my hats! Aye, that it is, so it would seem the brickmaker was a customer of yours. Damn, digging up the dirt! The sort of customer, I'd wager, you could have a wee quarrel with over the distinctiveness of the goods. Oh, no, sir, absolutely not, sir. Well, there's really nothing more to add. Wouldn't be right to say that these two fellas here haven't the remotest connection to the victim, you see. Dang. I rest my case. Okay, McGilded, you're pretty good at this. You little weasel! Ah! Better at this than I am. Gosh, Mr. McGilded has certainly been thorough in his research, hasn't he? Please, don't let me little interruption hold up the proceedings. Hat Hunter!
Hold it!
Are you quite certain about that? That skylight was shut the entire time. I'm going to lose my block with you in a minute. He's gonna lose his rag with you in a minute. That's what he said. Take a look for yourself. Go on. You see, it's shut fast now, just like it was on that night. Yeah, but there's a latch. So it is, of course. A fella the size of Mr. Mason would likely break through it, still and all. What? Just looking at the size of the ting, you understand. Ah, now you hold there a minute, sir. The size of the ting means nothing. Not on its own. Let's consider the bigger picture here, shall we? Stop biting our cane, shall we? Yeah, seriously, bro. I was riding the omnibus on another occasion when, well, I broke wind loudly. I shocked myself with it, as it happens. Cool. This is an unexpected confession, Mr. First. There's no fines for farting on the omnibus. It's just rude. Oh, I just meant to say, well, the point is, I tried to open the skylight, you see. But just my luck, I couldn't make it budge. The stench was terrible. I had way too many eggs for breakfast. Everyone was looking daggers at me, sir. I went red as a rogue, I did. Are you expecting something from me? Oh no, sir, the point is, the skylight can't be open. I tried and tried when I was inside that cabin in shame. Excuse me? Oh, what you got over here, little lady? Do you have something to say about that, Miss Lestrade? Miss Lestrade. Yeah, only from the outside, because you saw the latch, which makes sense. Well, actually, wouldn't that be a terrible design? Wouldn't you want it only open from the inside so people can't just, like, sneak in there? It opens. The skylight. That is what we're talking about, right? Oh God, who's getting it today? All them skylights open, dead easy. More easily than you can load that weapon. That's a lie, tell you otherwise when I broke window, You can't do it from inside, you mug. Oh. Look, a few weeks ago, I was up on the roof deck of one of them drags, and I had a great haul. I mean, I had bursts coming out me ears. Miss Lestrade, this is not the forum to be eulogizing on the subject of your criminal activities. Well, anyway, I had a bit of a scare. When I lifted the last bloke's purse, he got wise to me. All four of them surrounded me, so I couldn't hop off the bus and leg it. So what I did was I used the skylight, opened the catch, and jumped right through. What? Yeah, the catch for the skylights is on the top side. That's why you can't open them from the cabin. Skylight opens from the roof deck. That helps my case. Bailiff! Climb up on the roof of the omnibus at once and verify the witness's claims. There's a latch! Phew! Oh, and it's a slidey one. Fancy. Oh, my hat! See? Order, order! So it appears that this street girl statement is quite true. Well, I think it's a gun that shoots like paint or like powder or something, like, because I think she said she picked it up at like a racehorse place. But yeah, she shot the judge immediately with it, and then me. I don't believe it. The skylight opens, and from the roof deck, well, I mean also gas. Well, I think she had like a gas grenade at first, but then after that she just shot us with powder. Though it might be, I don't know, that's dangerous. Mr. Naruhodo, this could be the clue we've been looking for. Well, counsel for the defense, please continue with your cross-examination. Yeah, I know, otherwise we would have all been dead. She was also in the room, so I guess it would have been unwise for her to throw that. Cocaine! Cocaine, though. Wait a second. So Scarlet was fastened shut before. Now the catch has been undone, we should be able to open it. Whoa! Whoa! Blood! That's blood! Ba-da-da-da. You can certainly see inside the carriage through this opening, that's for sure. Do cocaine about— wait, what? What? No, I don't have ghosts in my blood, I hope. You can certainly see inside the carriage through this opening, that's for sure. Yes, and there's a lamp in the enclosed cabin. So I'm sure the witnesses would have been able to see it quite clearly. The blood! Look at the blood. That's not good for us. Hey, the blood! The blood! The blood. Maybe I need to go in— okay, let me get inside the cabin. It has a— no, well, it's the wrong paint. The scene of the murder, it's horrible. Blah. The blood! Yes, it does open very wide, doesn't it? Wide enough to kick someone like you through, certainly, Mr. Naruhodo. Why someone like me? I have one of those? I don't. Ah! What is it? Look, just here. Look at this. Somebody got ketchup all over it. That's without question. It's ketchup. Hot blood. It's blood. It's blood. Why would there be blood stain there? Surely it can't be unrelated to the case, can it? There's a blood stain visible on the frame when the skylight was open. I don't know. What if the evidence is this fucking thing with the blood? Lick it, test it, bop it, twist it. On the night in question, the victim was fatally stabbed in the stomach. And immediately afterwards, the victim's body was pushed through the skylight into the cabin below. Those are the facts, and the irrefutable proof remains clearly visible on the omnibus that stands before us today in this very courtroom. Oh man, I didn't get it. What? That's utter humbug. Who says humbug? You can't possibly have any evidence. No, you can't. What? I mean, it didn't do it, I tell you, it's impossible. Irrefutable proof here in this courtroom. Counsel? My lord, I believe everyone would like to appreciate a little, or would appreciate a little clarification here, Where exactly within the omnibus is this evidence to which you allude? You will point out what it is that proves the victim fell through the roof deck. Did I not just— oh, he doesn't know about the blood. I know about the blood. Blood. Licking ghost, yeah, lick a tongue, pink. By Jupiter, is that blood? Darg! Bloodstain proves two things. Firstly, when the incident occurred, the skylight of the omnibus was open. What? And secondly, the victim was already bleeding when he fell through the opening. Oh my. And so it follows that Mr. McGilded, who was inside the enclosed cabin himself at the time, cannot possibly be guilty of this crime. No! Order! Order! Order!
Hold it.
But, the blood could have sprayed up there when the fellow was stabbed inside the cabin. And only found its way to that one particular spot on the skylight. Sure, and that would be very convenient. Ah! And let's keep it in mind that the skylight catch can only be unfastened from the roof deck. I myself wouldn't have been able to open it now, would I? But, there's no way to know for certain, is there? If the gent really fell through the skylight? Why don't you have a good look at the floor of the cabin between the two seats, Mr. First? 'Tis all too plain, if ye see. There's the aftermath that shows the poor fella dropped from a fair height right there, so it is.
Hold it.
My fellow jury members, I think we can all agree that this is clear proof of the defendant's innocence, can't we? I believe we can, yes, sir. It's clear to me now where the filthy rubbish can be found in this courtroom. So they thought they could pull the wool over my eyes, did they? Stop stabbing the table! I won't tolerate any of the guild's carriages being sullied with blood. I won't tolerate it! Oh, I always knew that nice gentleman who gave us that delightful park couldn't have done such a thing. On three, then, everyone. 1, 2, 3!
Objection.
A chilling performance, Mr. McGilded. Oh, and what would ye be referring to there now, Lord Van Zeeks? A bloodstain on the frame of the skylight? Such evidence is null and void. What? Why? For one extremely simple reason. That smear of blood never existed. What? What are you talking about? It's there for all to see, and it's clearly blood.
Objection.
I personally attended Scotland Yard's investigation of the omnibus. The officers involved went over the carriage with a fine-tooth comb. So I can state with absolute surety, no such smear of blood existed in the carriage. At least, not until this trial began. But, are you suggesting, Lord Van Zeeks, that this stain of blood was fabricated, my lord? Yes. And while this court has been in session... What? Mark. We're just having a rough time. What a palaver. I must say I didn't expect such crude reasoning from a prosecutor of your standing, Lord Van Zeeks. But I'm Magnus McGilded, a fella known all over the capital for his fine contributions to public life. I don't take kindly to slander, and I'll fight it to the bitter end. Even if it's rolling off the tongue of the Reaper of Bailey. Mr. McGilded, I realize that this is your first appearance in court as the accused. However, I am well aware of your involvement behind the scenes in many great affairs of dubious nature. It is a long trial. I mean, I'm glad, as long as the final trial isn't 10 hours long, like Spirit of Justice's final trial, then I'm good. Because that was stupid. That made me mad. You're very adept when it comes to avoiding getting your own hands dirty. No, this is just trial 3. I'm pretty sure that's probably 4 or 5. And each time it happens, the case you're involved in and investigated, you adapt the facts. Plus, this is the first time Van Zeek showed up. So if he was only in 2 trials, that'd be kind of weird. Adapt the facts? What does that even mean? Sorry, I'm gonna drink more of this. I don't know how I still have it. When you wield a fortune the size of Mr. gilded, however ill-gotten it may be, nothing is impossible. Tampering with evidence, manipulating the scene of crime, bribing witnesses. I toast your ability to concoct the most convenient of stories, sir. Tut, Lord Van Zeeks, this will not do, to be sure. Will it now, Counsel? Like, I've been doing part 2 and 3 of this trial, which is this is the last part of this trial, for about 2.5 hours now, and it took me a bit over about 2.5 to do the investigation in the first part of the trial. So yeah, a total of about 5 hours for here. Oh no. I think it's fair to say, this does all sound rather far-fetched excuse by a desperate man. The blood on the skylight didn't exist, you say? But if yous will all cast your minds back, is it not true that the omnibus there has been in the courtroom the entire time? How could anyone possibly have put a smear of blood in it without the world and his wife seeing? Yeah, exactly. Isn't that right now, Counsel? Actually, it's true. The omnibus has been in full view the entire... Except, for one point, my learned friend. Here's to hearing your opinion on this matter in your own words. As you wish. Could someone have tampered with the omnibus during this trial? If you're asking me, I think it could have been possible. As a defense lawyer, it's my job to advocate for the defendant as best as I can. But still, I feel as though there's something even more important at stake here. The truth. Oof. There's no evidence to suggest that a defendant did as my learned friend suggests. However, in terms of having the opportunity to carry out the alleged tampering, there is one possibility. Oh! Good gracious! Explain yourself, Counsel. Yeah, we have it because we got it from our friend who died. You know, that old chestnut. Yes, there it is. It seems my learned Nipponese friend has no intention of running from this deceit. Thanks. Deceit? Oh, have a good one, Seer. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope that you rest well. The recess that we were forced to take. Dun dun dun. I didn't get to go on the swings as a result of the smoke grenade fired by the witness currently in the stand, Miss Gina Lestrade. Bang! Dun, dun, dun. What's going on? Be careful, Mr. Naruhodo. Cover your face. Bailiff, don't let the... secure them. Okay, yeah, the smoke. The courtroom was filled with smoke, and everyone was thrown into confusion. All of us were made to leave this chamber. In that brief interval, under the veil of the smoke and all that chaos, it could have been possible to steal inside the omnibus. And just kind of go, blood, blood. Are you wise? What are ye trying to pull, ye rotten, feckless gouger? Feckless? Gouger? You're supposed to be defending me! 'Tis a wicked plot. 'Tis a plot to undermine me, so it is.
Objection.
Well, I believe so far that it's probably one of the guys stabbed him and threw him down there, but adding your own fabricated evidence doesn't make it better. Whatever you think this is, it changes nothing. The facts are the same. After this courtroom was evacuated earlier as a result of the smoke grenade, a number of inconsistencies materialized in relation to the omnibus. Inconsistencies such as... Okay, the empty underseat thing, yep. That had stuff in it. The bloodstain. Unfortunately, Lord Van Zeeks, no one is able to corroborate your claims. That's true. When the omnibus was first wheeled out, both the storage compartment and the skylight were shut. Accordingly, I am afraid to say we cannot establish with any certainty if this evidence is the result of tampering or not. Indeed, my lord, no doubt there was not a single person who saw fit to verify such things. What do you think? Sorry. Yeah, the blood on the floor wasn't there either. It was just on the seat. My lord? Yes, counsel? There is one further inconsistency. A mark that surely could not have been present at the start of the trial. What? What in the devil's name are you going to say now? If you dare betray me, you little ragged... Silence, McGilded. The court awaits the defense's clarification. This trial keeps swinging one way and the other. I have no idea what's the truth and what's deception. I mean, if you paid attention, you'd know. What am I supposed to believe here? Yeah, elaborate. That one.
Got it!
Where's the blood stain on the chair, actually? If we consider that the victim fell through the skylight onto the floor of the cabin, you would certainly expect to find signs of blood where he landed. But as far as I recall, this blood stain on the cabin floor was not there when the omnibus was first brought into the courtroom. Good lord! Yes, I do believe you're correct, counsel. Well said. Although, as an advocate for the defense, one might say that was a very careless slip of the tongue. Whew. I believe that bloodstain on the floor is a decisive piece of evidence. But if the question is whether that evidence is genuine, or whether it was unlawfully fabricated by someone, I feel compelled to admit that there's at least a possibility that the evidence is fake. Catch a bus and definitely not drink. Yeah. And watch out for the cocaine. Really messes with your fake hair. Ah! Oh, he's so mad. This trial is over. Mr. McGilded, I've done everything possible I can to cooperate with the court, but it is all over now. But you're the defendant. 'Tis over, I tell ye. Memory, recollection, what people think they saw. 'Tis all nonsense. Facts are what counts, and the fact is that bloodstain is there, now, but it's not. Well, and over the course of this desperate trial, long and extremely drawn out as it has been, that good-for-nothing Reaper of the Bailey has failed to present any decisive evidence at all. I'm scandalized, so I am. I thought better of Lord Van Zeeks. Well, my lord, I must concur with the defendant. The unaffirmed recollections of an individual cannot stand as evidence. At this moment in time, the particular bloodstain in question is very much in existence. Scotland Yard has a report that says it's not there, Jesus. In the absence of any credible method by which to prove its alleged previous non-existence, I regret to say it would be improper for this trial to continue. Your lordship can't be serious. Lord Van Zeeks, what is your position? The prosecution, my lord, has no further witnesses or evidence to present. Very well, in that case, I believe we have explored every possible avenue in this matter. I shall proceed to my adjudication. Formality, I am of course obliged to confirm with the defense first. What formality? He'll be found not guilty, yeah. Which would mean we've won. Is that good, though? Yeah, exactly. I'm just like, damn. I still think that he's innocent, but I feel like he really fucked up by making... wait. I mean, also if he's... Like, I still feel like there's like a killer out there. That probably ties into later on. Sorry. You're actually pretty cool. We were both looking for the truth, but it got fucked up. I mean, also, you shouldn't drink with your chin. Here's to you, my Nipponese friend, and the most abject closing I have yet to hear in a court of law. I don't know. I don't think he was personally the one who killed him, but he might have paid everybody in that room. Oh, 'twas a grand decision to appoint you as my lawyer, so it was a grand decision. You've saved one of London's most influential gentlemen, fella. Ye should be proud of yourself. Here, have this for your troubles. Your job here is done, fella, and some fine work you've done, so ye have. What do you mean? 'Tis just as the right honorable gentleman so succinctly put afore. The trial can't go on anymore. And your closing statements there was, how did he put it now? Nothing more than a formality. Never trust the Irishman. Dang rich people. I really don't know what to make of all of this. Was the evidence we've seen genuine, or was it fake? His lordship would be fuming. Any unsightly rubbish should be disposed of promptly, as I said. Stinking rich are always guilty of something. You, mark my words. I feel terribly ashamed I ever doubted that lovely man who gave us the lovely park. Now that proceedings have unfolded this way, I am compelled to declare a premature end to this trial. Furthermore, the court must accept the defendant's plea. I thank you kindly, my lord. I hereby pronounce the verdict of this court. Objection! But we still haven't determined the bloodstain in the omnibus is genuine or not. Yeah, we don't know if the witnesses are telling the truth or a pack of lies. We have no idea about the truth. Lord Van Zeeks? My lord? The case made by the prosecution was flawed, plain and simple. If indeed the omnibus presented as evidence was tampered with, the prosecution is at fault for allowing such a disgraceful perversion of justice to take place. Oh no, don't blame him. My sincerest apologies, Lord.
Objection!
Objection! That fucking sucks. It's not his fault. We were ordered. We were ordered the evidence to be secured. I'm afraid the prosecution cannot shun responsibility in this matter. That's unfair! Fuck you! The culpability of the defendant has not, at the present time, been established by this court. Consequently, the jury will not be required to proffer judgment. What? Well, Lord Van Zeeks, it's been a pleasure, so it has. And as for you, my dear fella, couldn't have asked for a better defense. I don't feel good about this. You can tell this has all been a grand waste of time? 'Tis the law of the land, my good man. Everything's a waste of time if you think about it. If you'd like to pursue this matter further, you can always go ahead and try to change the law. Magnus McGilded. Good grief, ye've more to say to me, have ye? Just one thing, a warning. This is far from over. Well, something to be looking forward to then. I hereby pronounce the defendant, Mr. Magnus McGilded, not guilty. Hooray! Shoot the confetti, I guess. I don't feel very good about this. Oh, fireworks! Hooray! I hope he paid for those. With the courtroom in pandemonium for the second time that day, the judge delivered his verdict, and my first ever trial in Great Britain came to an abrupt end, with the defendant being found not guilty, ostensibly a victory for us. February 18th, 5:14 p.m. Old Bailey, defendant's antechamber. That certainly was a long trial. Ah, yes, it was. Your first ever trial on foreign soil and your first victory. It was a wonderful performance. My heartfelt congratulations. And to you, Mrs. Otto, thank you for your assistance. I suppose we should be happy. Trouble is, we're still completely in the dark about what actually happened. Well, we didn't have enough time. But isn't it wrong? I mean, who was actually responsible for Mr. Mason's death? We don't even know that. The sole aim of the defense is to obtain a verdict that exonerates the defendant. You carried out your duty to perfection. Aye, that you did. Ah, gross. I don't feel too good about you being close to me, sir. Mr. McGilded? That girl is with him, too. Well, it seems that stories are true. Oh, what stories? About 6 enormous fireworks they do be letting off when there's the verdict of not guilty. We're breaking the fourth wall. I'm sure you must have seen them now. Spectacular, wouldn't you say? Yes, definitely. I heard it was a sight to behold, and to be sure it was. And I've told you to thank. I've you to thank, I suppose, for having an opportunity to see it. That's not evil laugh at all. Oh, I don't know about that. I didn't really do anything. What on earth are you saying, fella? How did I walk out of there a free man, then? I don't think it was so much thanks to me as down to your planning. You're a straight-talking fella, aren't ye? I must say, you had me astray in the head there once or twice. But you're young and headstrong. That is water under the bridge. Lying's bad. We cleared your name. There's only one thing that matters to me. Oh? Aye! Money! They've all seen that I didn't do that odious and abstinent deed. 'Tis grand, is it not? I suppose it is. Now the fine fellas of Scotland Yard can take matters in hand and sort out any wee details. They'll see it for what it is. They'll get to the truth. I have absolute faith in them, so I have. After all, I do be providing a good number of their wages with all the taxes I pay. Just a little rich man joke. Not that funny. So then, as we agreed aforehand, 1,000 guineas for your troubles, fella. Oh, no, I couldn't possibly accept that much. Odd, be whist! You're a humble people, are ye, from the east? Yeah. Well, if you insist. But have this, still and all, you deserve a reward. Mr. Magnus McGilded. Everything is ready, sir, if you'd like to follow me into the courtroom. Into the courtroom? What's this, officer? 'Tis sooner than I was led to believe. I was not inconvenient, sir. There were some changes to the schedule. Well, I must be making tracks now. 'Tis time for the inspection. Sorry, what inspection? They're going to examine the omnibus again, so I'm told. I asked if I could be present for it myself. They're going to examine it again? Now? Naturally, I'm under no obligation to take part in any more of this matter now, but as an upstanding member of London society, I do be doing my best to help where I can. 'Tis a gentleman's duty, so it is. So then, fare thee well. 'Twas an absolute pleasure meeting yous. I hope ye have a whale of a time while you're studying here in Great Britain. Yeah, I don't know. And there he goes, the free man. Great. Fuck, we did that. Oh, hi! Oh, I forgot she was here too. Okay, bye. No, don't shoot me! Oh god, what color this time? Yellow? Like piss? Don't move. Whereas I want to say get a move on. She really does take forever to load that thing. Miss Lestrade, would you mind putting that thing down? You're a grown-up. Sorry? And I ate all grown-ups. Don't eat grown-ups. I'm not a grown-up, I'm like 18. Ah, there you are. Who the fuck are you? Who the fuck is this? What? Did we just go back to Japan? Is this an idol? What is happening? Naughty, naughty, running off like that. Is this some kind of picnic? Who's this little girl now? And taking that with you as well. I was looking forward to the trial run of my experimental smoke grenade launcher. It's a, ha! What the fuck? Oh, do you want to play? You won't beat me. That what? Excuse me, but who are you? Oh, good day to you. Well, I'm the inventor, I suppose, of that machine. The inventor? Well, normal smoke grenades are so dull, don't you agree? White, white, and more white. Just like Britain. If you have to be shrouded in smoke, it could at least be a pretty color, I thought to myself. Do we have to be shrouded in smoke, though? I just took my eyes off of it for a moment whilst I was changing into a different omnibus, and she pinched it. Luckily, I fitted it with a telegraphic beacon. What? I don't think that's a thing that exists. A what's it? What? I have no idea what this girl is talking about. Anyway, you're coming with me now. Back to my laboratory. What? What for? Apologize, of course, silly. To my technician. What? You mean, say sorry? You must say sorry when you've done something wrong. Surely as an adult has told you that before. I hate adults. I don't listen to no adults. Oh god. Come along then, follow me. Fine, have it your way. Oh good, you see, I knew you'd want to do the right thing in the end. Really certain to die to that shot out of your gun. No gunshots. My god. Okay, yes, curtsy, you weird steampunk princess girl. We'll be leaving now then. Bye-bye. I'm so sorry for all the fuss. Jesus, can this just be over so I can save? She was a lively one. But no, I'm probably gonna run into Baron Van Zeeks. Yeah. Well, do you think perhaps we ought to be on our way now too? Yes, please. But where to? Oh, we haven't time to find a place to play. No sooner we arrive in London than we rush here. All our traveling cases are still with the bailiff. I was originally planning to spend today in search of lodgings, but at this late hour in the day, I'm afraid we may be out of luck. Don't worry though, I have a plan. If the worst comes to worst, I've heard of a lovely park where we could spend the night. Is it possibly his park? McGilded Park? I know it'd be a little chilly this time of year, but our youthfulness will see us through. I'm not so sure about that. I think a midwinter London night will freeze a young person solid just as easily as an elderly one. Oh dear, that doesn't sound agreeable. I'm starting to regret turning Mr. McGilded down. That 1,000 guineas would have paid for a lovely warm room, or mansion. Well, And so, the trial to determine my worthiness for the study tour was over by the end of our first day in London. However, as we were soon to learn, there were more trying times ahead. Just as the Reaper of Bailey had warned, the case was far from over. Good, because fuck that guy. Save? Do I get to save? I don't get... Let me save the goddamn game before I get in a cutscene.
Get the fire brigade! Water!
Somebody lit the...
What? How did this happen?
I don't know, sir. By the time I got here, it was already engulfed.
No one was supposed to be allowed in here before we started investigating.
Of course. Hello?
No. Oh, good God. There's someone in there.
Oh no! Judge!
Oh, this can't be.
It's like, god damn it, I knew it. Are we the bad guys? Are we the bad guys? God damn. Okay, can I save the game now? End. Yeah, I guess for somebody. Somebody's dead. The realm of the Reaper. Thanks. Say yes, please. Jesus. Holy moly. Well, that's case episode 3 done. Adventure of the Clouded Kokoro. That's episode 4. We're done for tonight.